Baxter Weir. Delightful little chip forward. San Jose the covering player for Mark McGee. Huge waiting in the middle. Yes! And that is a magnificent goal for Aberdeen.
Good evening and welcome to episode 96 of the By the Minute AFC podcast. My name is Martin Clunas, I'm your host for this week. Joining me we have two very special guests. We've also got joining us as always Richard Hayes here. How are you doing, Richard?
Hi Martin, I'm fine, thanks.
Good stuff. We've also got Martin Stone joining us this week. How are you doing, Martin?
Alright, not too bad, Martin. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem at all. And we also have photographer to the stars, those stars of course being the Aberdeen football players, Scott Baxter. How are you doing, Scott?
Done with the flu, but apart from that, I'm grand.
Well, we'll come to that in a few minutes. There's certainly something to talk about there. So we've got a packed show for you tonight. We're going to talk about the game against Dundee. We're going to preview Partick. We've got the unveiling of a new feature called McMastermind, so we'll see how that goes. But we're going to start right off with talking about the game from Saturday afternoon against Dundee. We had an almost unchanged lineup. Richard, Ryan Christie stepped back in. Now you look at the bench where you have Stewart, Rooney, Arneson, Wright, Maynard, and Stockley all available. Were you surprised that there was only one change?
We'd spent the podcast last week talking about the great options available to us up front and how we might expect to see a lot more rotation this year rather than one single favoured 11. Well, of course, as he quite often does, Derek McInnes turned that on his head by pretty much going with what looks like it may well now be a more settled 11. Stevie May, I think, is going to play most weeks if he's fit. I think, given the money that's been spent on him, given the belief that McInnes clearly has in him, I think he's going to play week in, week out. And of course, there's a question mark as to where that leaves guys like Adam Rooney and some of the other striking options. Out wide, I think you want to keep stretching teams, so I think it's understandable that Gary Mackay-Stevens plays. The question mark is over Ryan Christie, played out wide left of a 3. And I think it was a 3. I've seen some other people online suggesting it was more a 4-4-1-1, but I don't think McLean was pushed quite that far forward. Again, Ryan Christie had a very poor game, I think we have to acknowledge that, but him being shunted out wide is not where I want to see him on a football park, especially if it's been to accommodate someone who once again didn't have any sort of impact on the game in Kenny McLean.
Now, Martin, I want to talk about the defence as well there. Obviously, Arneson's on the bench. Me and Richard have banged on about this till our cows come home, about how the defence isn't settled and there's something needs to be done there. It really isn't working with O'Connor and Reynolds together, is it?
No. I mean, it's the ongoing problem that we've got there. Every time Dundee came forward on Saturday, it was we just didn't look as though we knew what we were doing. Communication looked slack. Centre backs were getting pulled around all over the place again. I think the main thing for me that Arneson's been brought in to do is try and bring a bit of stability back there, kind of organise it a bit better. So long term, I think he's got to be one of the centre halves. Whether he'll stick with a left and a right-sided centre half and have Reynolds and Arneson, that would probably be my favoured combination at the moment. But saying that, O'Connor's probably looked the more kind of reliable of the two, Reynolds and O'Connor so far. So. Still a bit of work to do to get that settled. I think the issue with Arneson is that he's definitely lacking a lot of match sharpness at the moment. It was obvious in the last game. He looked so far off the pace, it was unbelievable. So it's probably going to take him a bit of time to get up to speed. But I think it needs to be sorted sooner rather than later, because when we start playing the teams a bit higher up the league, I think that defensive frailty could be exposed.
I think what I will say, to take the shift of blame slightly off just the two guys in that position, I think there has been a change, and it comes in our transition play. Last year when we had Ryan Jack would be the pivot, and when we had the ball, Ryan Jack would be the one that would go in between the centre halves and make it a 3 at the back and allow the full backs to push further on. I think what's happened this year, it's a bit more lopsided. I think Andy Considine is the man who comes across to make it a 3, and Shea Logan pushes on from right back. And I think we're having difficulty adjusting to that. Quite a lot of difficulty, it would seem. Now, I don't know whether the answer is perhaps to go back to a system where we have a more traditional centre, defensive-minded centre midfielder there. Again, on Saturday we had issues in midfield, so you can't say that part of the team is fixed either.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there, Richard. I think the Andy Considine issue is becoming more and more apparent. He's struggling a bit there in the first few games of the season without Hayes in front of him to give him that little bit more protection. Mackay-Steven definitely doesn't want to be coming back as much, or Christie, whoever's playing on that left-hand side. So Considine definitely has looked a bit more exposed there as well, as I say. So I think work all round to be done in the defence. Whether Tansey can be the man to do the jack role, I suppose, and drop back into the defence. I'm not sure that's really that much a part of his game. So you may even be looking at Arneson in centre mid at some point. He's played there before, obviously. You might be the one to kind of give us that defensive shield a bit more at the centre halves, but certainly need to do something. The likes of when we come up against Celtic and some of the other teams that will come on to us a bit more, I think we will be exposed if we keep going the way we're going at the moment.
No, it's definitely not part of Greg Tansey's game, and I don't want to see it be part of Greg Tansey's game either. Tansey built his success in Inverness in getting forward, getting into shooting positions, and being able to contribute quite a few goals to the team. We talked at the very first couple of podcasts this season about Andy Considine having to adjust the way he plays because he doesn't have the Johnny Hayes in front of him. He doesn't just need to do that in an attacking sense, and he's not the only one. I think the whole team is having to adjust to lots of little subtle tactical changes which are being implemented to accommodate the new players, and also the fact that obviously some key guys have moved on.
Now we'll talk about the opening goal in a minute. Let's just say either side of that, Dundee had two pretty good chances. James Vincent threw away a really, really good chance after a pretty suicidal Mark Reynolds back pass. And then Marcus Haber headed the ball against the crossbar. When we had Dundee fan Jamie on the podcast last week, Scott, he spoke to us about how Dundee just weren't capable of converting their chances. And that really was the story of their day, wasn't it?
It really was. But I'll say this, if there's ever a time where I'm shouting to myself or the back of the camera, it's been recently when a big cross comes in. I'm not as confident as, say, I was last season that would get rid of that. They really could have done us in. I just think this defence needs more time to gel, and I would like to see Arneson and O'Connor personally see how that works out. But there's just something not sitting right now. I'll say that. Dundee
had 4 big chances, and 3 of them came directly from our errors, which is pretty unforgivable from our point of view.
Yeah, that was one thing that was clear on Saturday, that normally you've got maybe 1 or 2 players that are having an off day, but it was players all over the park were not up to their usual standards. It was slack passes all over the place, as well as Christie being a bit off kind of colour. Shinnie was poor as well. He had a few slack passes, a few times he tried to drive on with the ball when he should have taken the easy option. I think really we were lucky to come away with the 3 points. I suppose they always say that's a mark of a good team when you can, you've got as many players not playing at the top of their game and you still get the 3 points. But there was definitely something up on Saturday. It was pretty hairy at times. I think we made Dundee look a lot better than they have done in the first couple of games of the season. Really, I was glad to get the 3 points, get it out of the way, get the players regrouped, and hopefully get some better performances for the Partick game.
So the opening goal came from a corner. We'd already had a set piece before that had been obviously knocked out. Stevie May gets away from his man, heads it home. Now we've been kind of critical of the set pieces early season again this year, but it was a pretty damn good ball into the box, wasn't it, Martin?
It was, yeah. It was a great ball in, and a good bit of movement from May as well, and it was. At that point it was deserved. Aberdeen had started pretty well, to be honest, and I thought we would kick on from that point and go and kind of dominate the game. But it just shows what May's bringing to the team at the moment. It was a great header, and then obviously the goal later on as well, which was an absolute beauty. Just about took the net off. So I'm really pleased with the impact that May's made. I thought he might take a wee bit of time to bed in. Especially after the long injury that he had this season as well. I thought he might be, might take him a few games to get going, but he's certainly looking sharp.
That's one thing, Scott, that May brings to the team. He's got that ability just to find that little bit of space away from his man. Once you saw him in that little bit of space, you had pretty much a lot of faith that he was going to knock that in, weren't you?
Absolutely. I was actually asked to get some images of Gary Mackay-Steven and Stevie May. And one thing I will say about Stevie May is the guy doesn't stop. He's always moving, and yeah, he did get the better of the defender that was marking him, and it's his movement that makes that, and it was a great finish with the head as well. Absolutely fantastic.
We'll have a mention about the conditions. It wasn't the nicest day at Pittodrie. I don't know about you, Richard, but in the south stand I was absolutely soaked. I've seen your pictures from Section Y, Martin.
It's probably the worst conditions I've seen at Pittodrie for a long time. I managed to brave it for a while, but I must admit that the half-time downpour, I couldn't brave that. I didn't admit that on Twitter, obviously, although I just have now. So, but I had to take cover at half-time. It was absolutely biblical. It really was.
So, Scott, when the weather's that bad, whether it be rain, whether it be snow, how much more of a challenge is it for that weather, or do you feel that maybe you can get like a bit more, not iconic, but some better images?
You can, if you really slow the shutter down on the camera, you can get like a really nice sort of lots of line effects with the rain just falling down, and if the player's standing still, it looks amazing. It's kind of like if you set a camera up and you want to get like shooting star effect, it kind of looks like that with the rain, providing the player stays very still. The only other challenge is the light, because obviously when the clouds come in and the heavens open up, there isn't that many, the light goes down. So I've never photographed a game like that before in terms of when the conditions were just changing constantly. I mean, the gear I'm using is great, so everything's weather sealed, thankfully. For any camera buffs out there, it's like a Canon 1DX Mark II I'm using, so it's totally weather sealed, so it shouldn't be that much of a difference in terms of the rain, or if anything gets wet, it just does what it's expected to do. But hailstones at half-time, rain. I've never seen Section Y in the front of the south stand clear so quickly in the space of a minute of the referee blowing the whistle. I was out there in the whole, just 45 minutes of it, battering non-stop, just horrible. And here I am now with a bad headache and what I think's a cold coming on.
A special mention, I think, has to go to the two poor ball boys that had to walk around with that half-time draw board as well. I hope they got an extra pie or something when they got back in, just as a reward. I don't think they get any money, so hopefully they got something. I
went in after the game, way up to the media office to edit the photos, and my boss Malcolm Panton, he heard me before he seen me because my shoes were just squelching around the corner. Bad times.
Yeah. Second half begins. Dundee, they convert one of their chances through Rory Deacon. Terribly slack ball by Ryan Christie, gives the ball away in the first instance. Now, I want to put to you guys, I've read different accounts of who's to blame. Christie giving the ball away, yeah. Is Andy Considine backing off too much, or should Joe Lewis stop it, or is it a combination of both? Richard?
I don't think Considine deals with it brilliantly. He does show him out wide, but I would like to see him engage him further up the pitch, because it wasn't one-on-one at that point. There were other guys behind Andy who could have covered if Deacon had been able to get past him. So I don't think Considine was great. Obviously, the issue in the first place is Christie, and he did it numerous times, just trying to do too much with the ball, treating the ball with enough respect. The contrast, I think, when Greg Stewart came on, I think that was a really important change for us, because Greg did really, really well to hold on to the ball, to retain possession, to just give us a bit more of a foothold in an attacking area. And the contrast was very, very clear. Even though Stewart wasn't necessarily involved in the winning goal, the moment that won us the game, I thought he was a good move for us, and someone, just a contrast between Christie, who can make things happen by trying flicks and things. Saturday it just wasn't coming off for him at all. Andy Considine, as I say, doesn't cover himself in glory to my eyes. He does put him out wide. It looked, from my view, certainly, that it went kind of through Joe Lewis, and the TV pictures have seemed to back that up. To use the standard cliche about goalkeeping, he'll be disappointed to have been beaten at his near post. I might send that to Dave Priest and see what he says about that. It wasn't brilliant. I think he's anticipating a shot across him, and yeah.
I think that's a little bit harsher on Lewis. As you said, Martin, we were up in Section Y, so we were right behind the shot as it was taken. It kind of went through Considine's legs, and there's somebody behind Considine as well. I think it might be Reynolds, who's kind of putting a boot in trying to stop it as well. So by the time it gets to Lewis, it's came through kind of two sets of legs. He sees it really late, and okay, he's maybe like fractionally slow getting down to it, but as I said, by the time he kind of even saw it, it was almost past him already. So I wouldn't put too much blame on Lewis for that one.
It's a really good hit. I think we have to say that. He makes a very, very good connection. So he does very well to get that much power behind it. But But yeah, I was surprised to see it with that trajectory going.
I think the guy Deacon had a good game overall. Actually, he seemed to be a constant kind of threat. I've seen him in a few other games this season as well, and thought he looked fairly decent. So yeah, I think he's maybe one to watch for the rest of the season. He might have a good one for Dundee, I reckon.
I think maybe everybody was expecting Scott Allen to be their kind of main outlet, and he's the kind of guy who wants the ball all the time, but Deacon was the one who really impressed. I mean, I don't think Allen really impressed at all, did he?
Well, that miss he had later on in the game was just horrendous, thankfully for us. I mean, it was open goal really, and he screwed it wide from about 6 yards out. But no, I don't think he did much really, Allen, in the game. As I said, Deacon and the other guy that they had in central midfield, the ex-Arsenal guy, Kamara, is it? I think both of them were fairly good, but Allen was fairly anonymous from my point of view.
Yeah, well, like you just mentioned there, Dundee really should have scored a second goal. Scott, I don't know how Scott Allen managed to miss that open goal from 10 yards out. I mean, if that was one of our players, we'd be going absolutely bananas. And we were creaking at that point, weren't we?
Yeah, we'd be accosting them, would we? That was the big turning point. And as I'm saying, I think that it's just this defence. So I'm just so glad that didn't go in, thankfully. But, it was really close. And, the reaction in the stadium was just, come on, guys, get yourselves sorted, get organised, and let's get going. I genuinely think for the first couple of games this season, our goal is just literally to outscore the opposition. The way it's looking, we're so attack focused, and yeah, it's great if we can go and score a few goals every game, but we are going to come up against a lot better teams than the teams we've played, and it's going to show.
Well, we're relying on individual moments at the moment to get us through games. We've not had a flowing team performance yet. And I really include for 90 minutes each of the European games as well. We played well in spells at home to Apollon Limassol, and the second half in Herzegovina was impressive. Yeah, fits and starts so far. 3 games, 3 wins. It seems a bit churlish to be complaining about the performances, but we're not where we want to be, and I'm sure Derek McInnes would acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, I think as much as we've spoken about the defence, the mix in the midfield, I've said it a few times since the game on Saturday, the mix in the midfield to me just doesn't seem right at the moment. I think you kind of said it earlier on, Richard, that having Christie and playing in the same team, both kind of wanting to occupy the same type of positions behind the striker, it's not working for me at the moment. I think having Christie out wide totally nullifies what he's all about, and likewise McLean really. So to me, it's got to be one or the other, and I think based on what we've seen so far this season, I would have Christie in there before Kenny. Kenny had a great second half of the season last year, obviously, but Christie's got that ability to open up a defence. To me, Kenny maybe just doesn't. I'd be playing Ryan in behind the striker at the moment.
If I felt there was an available, more defensively minded midfielder available right now to us that was obvious, I'd be selling McLean, because it's quite clear he's not going to extend his contract. So, of course, you need a buyer to sell somebody, but in this situation, I don't know. I don't know if it's right to be playing a guy who's here on loan ahead of your own player. It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not playing Christie all the time isn't a long-term solution, is it?
But playing a guy who's not going to be here next year isn't either.
Yeah, effectively. I'd love to have him, absolutely love to have him, but I think his Celtic wages are just going to be a bit too much for us.
Certainly something interesting to think about. I do think that there's been rumours that there was a bid by Rangers for Kenny McLean, and it'd be interesting to see what's happening with their manager if they do make another bid for him. I mean, I don't think they've got any money, but if they want him, they're going to have to pay for him, because I think you're 100% right there, Richard. He's not going to sign. No, I'd rather play Christie than McLean, to be honest. I think we know who's a more talented footballer, unfortunately.
We've got to remember we also paid money for McLean as well.
Yeah.
So the club have got to at least be looking to recoup that. They're only going to do it by selling him now. I think we'd be looking for a pre-contract in January. So yeah, I'd probably agree with Richard. If it's clear he's not going to sign a new contract, then probably just have to bite the bullet and think about selling him. And probably, even if Christie is a short-term solution, he's doing more for the team at the moment than McLean is, in my opinion. I
also just feel that if the right player's out there, we can help the squad balance as well. If we were to sell him in this window, but again, you need a buyer, and a buyer who's going to offer something acceptable. The offer from the Rangers was apparently 300,000. I mean, that's laughable.
You do also need the money up front, which I would imagine they don't have anyway. So
it's not going to happen, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't earn 300,000 from their European exploit. They don't have that money there. We'll talk about the second Aberdeen goal. I don't think you'll ever find a more bizarre set of circumstances to happen at Pittodrie. A double injury to two of their players, Haber and El Baktui. Neil McCann, I think, is hugely at fault by not having subs ready. As soon as you see two players go down, you should have the subs warming up. And then Aberdeen break forward. Dundee Camera doesn't try to play the ball out. Martin, no changes, so they couldn't make any changes. And then the goalmouth scramble breaks to Stevie May. Poor management by Dundee, really, but that doesn't discount the fact that it was a phenomenal goal.
Yeah, it was a weird one. Definitely, we were screaming at the time for Aberdeen to go and put the screw on them, because it was obvious Dundee were toiling at that point. We were down to 9 men, and you could see an opportunity there. So kind of initial shot from Shinnie Lucas that was flying in. They managed to get a body on the line, but the ball breaks to May. I couldn't even really see who it was at the time. It was that kind of congestion up there, and the conditions being what they were. I thought it was Maynard that had scored for a start, but the strike, it was incredible. Like, I don't think the TV pictures do it justice, to be honest. Seeing it in person, it was absolutely unstoppable, and as I said, almost took the net off, and it was just relief all round in the crowd when that one hit the back of the net.
It's precisely what I was going to say. That being there, and then watching it on TV, it seemed so much quicker at the time. It just flew in, absolutely flew in. And if the net wasn't there, it would still be rising now, I suspect. It was such a sweet strike. And again, it's just a glimpse of what he's capable of. Adam Rooney in that 6-yard box is brilliant at scoring goals. They're going off his shin, off his arse, whatever. The sweetness of that Stevie May strike, though, just a completely different type of centre forward.
Would it be fair to say that I think that's what Stevie May needed in his first game? A couple of goals, just to any kind of doubts about his fitness or his ability or why he's here. You look at that, Scott. He goes and puts two goals in, and suddenly he's the hero, and everybody loves him already.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was in the script, was it? He's clearly learned his history. 11th of May, blah blah blah. We all know that. The thing is, here, I'm so glad the ball didn't go a play, because I can only assume. I mean, Adam Rooney was geared up, ready to go on, and I honestly think that if the ball had went out of play, I think Stevie May was on his way to the sub bench and Rooney was coming on. But then Adam was still sitting his arse by Derek, so because Stevie scored his goal and he was on his hat trick. So yeah, I'm chuffed he did what he did, and what a cracking finish as well. I
actually feel a bit sorry for Rooney in a way, because he's obviously been the main man for the past few seasons. The service he was getting from McGinn and Hayes was ideal for him. Balls into the box, and he obviously got the 20 plus goals for the past 3 seasons, and I couldn't have seen anybody coming in and replacing him, really. But I think the slightly different style of play we've got now maybe doesn't quite suit him as much as it did before. A bit more rhythmic build up maybe, and yeah, as I say, it pains me to say it almost, but even just in a couple of games that May's played, his movement and his kind of awareness is a level up to what Rooney offers, to be honest. For both the goals on Saturday, May's kind of movement to get on the end of the header first of all, and then just to find that little bit of space for a shot was kind of next level, and maybe what we'll be looking for to take us up a notch. So he's got to be the main man for me at the moment.
It seems harsh to say it, Richard, but we seem to have outgrown a 20-goal-a-season striker.
Well, I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, as we said the other week about Jayden Stockley, I think there'll be plenty of games this season where Adam Rooney will have a role to play. I think also, I mean, surely everyone on this podcast understands that the whole Derek McInnes only has a plan A thing has been blown well out of the water, and I think we will see at times 2 up top, maybe not from start of games, but definitely as games go on. And I think May and Rooney could work very, very well as a duo together. So I think there's lots of interesting possibilities. You talk about teams needing 4 good strikers. We maybe don't have 4 really good strikers, but we've got 4 very different strikers, each bringing something different into the mix, and I think that's quite a good thing to have. But keeping him happy, obviously, in that situation may be difficult. And again, it's one of the challenges that the manager's going to have.
It's a good problem to have, to be honest.
The change in the squad depth, it's been year on year, I find. First McInnes season with maybe 9 or 10 players who were of the quality you wanted, and now we're up to having 15, 16 players of that quality. Mm-hmm. So it's good. I think there are parts of the team, obviously, where we could do with a bit more depth. I think that's clear. It's very, very top heavy at the moment. But it has been a gradual thing year on year, and I think we've done really well, given the guys we've lost, given the quality we've lost, to be in a situation where we can look at that squad and think, yeah, it's probably better than last year.
Just when you're saying that there, Richard, about the 4 strikers, do we expect Stockley to still be here at the end of the transfer window? It seems so far kind of down the pecking order now, and even if we're chasing again and lumping high balls into the box, I've seen nothing from Stockley really to suggest that he's a man to throw in that situation. I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone before the end of the transfer window. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, his record off the bench is actually pretty good. He scored quite a few goals, six I think, last season off the bench. So he's shown that he can, at a certain level, change and impact games. But again, he's maybe one that, like Adam Rooney, needed that style of football that Johnny Hayes and Niall McGinn gave you, crosses from the byline. It's a hard one. The thing is, I don't see anyone from the under-20s stepping up quite yet. Conor McLennan might be that sort of mould of player. I think he's probably more of a Stevie May, to be perfectly honest, that kind of bustling type. So again, if he goes out, it's bringing a completely unknown quantity in. I think Derek McInnes probably still likes Jayden Stockley, but the problem he's got that the fan base are almost unanimously against him.
Yeah, I think he was so ineffective in the European games. That was probably the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. He just offered nothing at all. But maybe it's playing at that level up was difficult for him. Maybe at SPFL level again this season he will be a decent option off the bench. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people saying that would I rather he went over Story. Story was just starting to show a wee bit, obviously, and his couple of run-outs that he's had. Certainly a lot bit of a better option for me than Stockley was. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him moving on before the end of the window.
I think there'll definitely be some changes. I think if I was looking at the squad right now, I'd be thinking that Craig Story is probably one that's going to be mutually consented on the evening of the 31st. Some of the kids will probably go out and loan as well, but I think he'd ideally, even though we only generally start with one striker, I think he'll definitely would like to keep four of them around. But again, it depends on how unhappy the player is. If you listen to what he said about Miles Story moving on, there was talk about there being an agreement for him to move on to get more game time, and Stockley's had a reasonable amount of game time, I think, certainly compared to Miles Story, so I'm not sure we can quite use that argument yet.
It was certainly a good win anyway, when I think it would be fair to say that we definitely weren't firing on all cylinders. Christie's afternoon was topped off by his miss late on to make it 3-1. When your top players aren't really firing, to win at home should be expected anyway, but it's 9 points out of 9. It's really important to get those points on the board early, and we're 5 points ahead of the team that were third last season. We're still joint top as well, so it's certainly positive so far. Now we're going to move on to our next topic now, which is our brand new feature, which is AFC McMastermind.
Well, we welcome our first contestant onto McMastermind. Name?
Martin Stone.
Years supporting the Dons?
A long time, 20-ish.
And specialist subject?
The Jimmy Calderwood Years.
Martin, your questions on the Jimmy Calderwood Years start now. Which former Leeds United player scored the first goal of the Calderwood era, one of 5 in total for the club?
Pass.
Aberdeen's first win under Jimmy Calderwood came at which ground?
Tannadice.
No, it was East End Park. Which player was loaned from Holland during the winter transfer window of 2006?
Franz Snoyle.
Correct. Whose cross was converted by a tumbling Darren Mackey to give the Dons the lead against the Dnipropetrovsk in October 2007?
Richard Foster.
Correct. Against which side did Aberdeen lose 4-1 in the Scottish Cup quarter-final in season 2004-05?
Scottish Cup quarter-final. Dundee United.
Correct. From which club did Aberdeen sign Tommy Wright in August 2008?
Darlington.
Correct. How many European matches did the Dons play under Jimmy Calderwood's charge?
8.
Correct. Jackie McNamara signed for Aberdeen in summer 2007. From which club did he move on a free transfer?
Celtic.
It was Wolves. Which midfielder left the club at the end of Jimmy Calderwood's first season to move to Luton despite a contract offer?
Luton. No, pass.
Who scored the only hat-trick during the 5 seasons Jimmy Calderwood was in charge?
Steve Lovell.
Barry Nicholson. Who scored twice for Aberdeen in the 3-4 Scottish Cup semi-final defeat to Queen of the South at Hampden?
Andy Considine.
Correct. Aberdeen's pre-season tour... I've started, so I'll finish. Aberdeen's pre-season tour in 2007 took them to which African country?
Egypt.
Correct. Martin Stone, you scored 7 points.
Hey.
You passed on 2 questions. Which former Leeds United player scored the first goal of the Jimmy Calderwood era? That was Noel Whelan.
Of course, yeah.
And which midfielder left the club at the end of Jimmy Calderwood's first season to move to Luton? It was Marcus Heikkinen.
Okay. Yeah, right enough.
Well done, Martin.
Wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
Well, well done, Martin. And even if that does bomb, at least you know fine that you'll be top of the leaderboard forever.
I'll take it.
Before we move along as well, I just want to say on behalf of all of us on the podcast, I know we've sometimes been a bit arsey about them over the last few episodes as well, but obviously Jimmy Calderwood was our specialist subject there. We wish him well in his fight against Alzheimer's as well. It's an absolute shite disease for him to have, and he may have split opinion at Aberdeen, but on behalf of all of us here, we do wish him the best.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We have our upcoming game this Saturday as well. Aberdeen are away to Partick Thistle. Now, Partick Thistle are struggling this season. They have had 3 league defeats so far. Now, unfortunately, their run included Hibs, Celtic, St Johnstone, and now, Martin, they play us. You almost kind of feel a bit sorry for them, don't you?
You do well. Yeah, you do a wee bit. As long as we beat them on Saturday, and I may feel a wee bit sorry for them. Yeah, I'd kind of tipped them to have a good season. Partick, I think they've got the makings of a decent squad there. Managed to hang on to their manager again. Despite a bit of interest from down south, I think. So, yeah, I think they'll probably be alright over the course of the season. I'm just hoping they don't click into gear this Saturday, obviously. But, I mean, you looked at the fixtures at the beginning of the season, I think the first 4, we said, without being too big-headed about it, if Aberdeen played to their potential, then it could be, 12 out of 12. So, We'll need to be better than we were Saturday past, that's for sure. But if we show up and players are on their game, then there's no reason why we can't be getting the 3 points down there as well.
I mean, we've had good results against them last season, Scott. I mean, we won 2-1. There was the 6-0 game at the end of the season. I think that's probably, you can't read too much into that. They definitely did look like they were on the beach. If you're going to win the league, if you're going to finish second, if you're going to have runs in tournaments, it's one of the games, like Martin said there, you've really got to be winning, don't you?
Yeah, this is the type of teams we need to be beating consistently, and I genuinely think these guys here are just going to sit back, try and make it really difficult for us and try and get us on a set piece. I really think that's what's going to happen, and if we can break down, we've got the players to be a lot more sort of creative, and if we can break teams like this down, and I hate to say this, but if they're going to sit back an awful lot, if we were to come away with this 1-0, 2-1, then I'd be reasonably happy with that. A win's a must. A club like us now, we don't want to draw, we don't want to lose, we just want to win, and these are the games we'll have to go out and just do our thing.
I don't want to be too much like we should be beating these teams, because it's a very Celtic and the Rangers kind of attitude where you expect these teams to kind of just roll over to us. No, there's a chance of us getting a really good run on here where we could go 8 or 9 games undefeated. And get a really good set of points on the board, isn't there?
I think the expectation within Pittodrie will be that we go there and win. I think that's for sure. I think Partick's league run, I was surprised when you noted that they lost all 3 games. It is a tough run. They did, of course, go to Perth, beat St Johnstone 3-0 in the League Cup, so that's a little indication of what they're about, what they're capable of, certainly this season. There's not been too much change. They obviously lost Liam Lindsay during the summer, and it'll be a tough game. Partick Thistle last season played some very good football against us, looked a little bit toothless. They've tried to address that. They've made, in the context of the SPFL, 2 good striking signings, Connor Salmon and Miles Story. The chances of Miles Story coming back and biting us on our arse are no doubt quite high, because that always happens to us. Our away form has been sensational, particularly domestically, and we are actually going for a club record. If we win, it'll be the 8th straight domestic away win, 7 successive in the league, which matches the league record, matches that achieved in 1936 and 1971. But the 8 domestic games, that would be a new record. So again, it just shows the great consistency we've had away from home. This team certainly last season's team were very well set up to play away from home, and you kind of feel that there's enough confidence about the place that we should be going there and looking to win, absolutely.
I don't think, Martin, that there's much point in us trying to second guess any kind of lineups. I mean, it would be kind of the thing where, because we only had one change last week, Derek might make 4 or 5 and make us look like complete idiots.
Yeah, I think it's hard to call at the moment. I think if there's one player I would like to see coming in, it's probably Scott Wright again. He obviously demolished them down there last time, albeit against a bit of a makeshift side for part. I think these away games where we're going to be maybe hitting on the break a wee bit, these are ideal for Wright, and I think, as I said, it would kind of solve the problem of playing Christie out wide, get Wright on there and move Christie into the middle, and let's see what they can do. I think in the games that Wright's had this season, he's impressed me. I've been banging the drum about for long enough. I think he's kind of deserving. He's chancing the team now. He's proven it at the first team level. So apart from that, keep it fairly similar to what we had. If Arneson's back up to full kind of match sharpness, maybe bring him in at central defence. But I guess we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. We want to keep it fresh, but we also want to give this new system and new players a bit of time to bed in and get to know each other. So I don't think there'll be wholesale changes. Maybe 1 or 2. Keep it fresh. But we've got the international break coming up after this game, obviously. So there shouldn't be any excuses about tiredness or anything like that. They should all be raring to go and ready for their couple of weeks off, because none of them have made the Scotland squad again. So.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to mention that. The Scotland squad is the Scotland squad. Gordon Strachan clearly has his favourites. As an Aberdeen fan, I'm kind of delighted that none of our players are going to be going away just sitting on their arse doing nothing. But it's getting to be a bit tiresome now. I mean, my interest in the Scottish national team, Richard, has just basically disappeared. There's
quite a few selections in there. You can definitely. He has stuck with guys who he has picked in the past, and I find it, if you get into that team, into that squad, it's very, very hard almost to get out again. The John McGinn one is been the real one for me. I mean, he's done very, very little in the game. He did well at championship level for Hibs. Has he really proved himself in the top flight in Scotland? Not really. Certainly whilst at St Mirren, Kenny McLean did far, far more for St Mirren than John McGinn ever did. There were some curious selections there, but again, more of guys who are being kept in the squad. Graham Shinnie can definitely feel a little bit aggrieved not to even be in the conversation for a number of different positions. I mean, we're calling back up the reanimated corpse of Stephen Whittaker to play right back, I see. Where Graham Shinnie could quite easily fill in at right back. Although obviously it will be one of Robertson and Tierney that will actually play right back that day. But again, just a squad cover, you would think that Shinnie would be a sensible pick there. And even up front, I mean, again, compare what Ryan Christie's done in the top flight in Scotland for a number of seasons. Okay, his Celtic career hasn't taken off, but for Cally Thistle for a number of years, and obviously with us over the course of the last 8 months. Again, compare that to what John McGinn has done in the top flight, where it matters. Some of the selections are consistently bewildering, but it's the loyalty to guys who have failed us in the past that I find most strange.
The refusal to pick informed players, that he's picking the known quantities rather than the guys that are really on hot form at the moment, that does my head. And Christie is the one for me out of our team at the moment that should be in there. Maybe not as a starter. I said it to someone earlier on. He's the one player that I've seen in the SPFL this season, and probably last as well, that's got that ability to pick a pass through a packed defence and really be that creative spark. If we're drawing against, who is it? We've got Malta and Lithuania. If we're drawing with them with 10 minutes to go against that attack defence, he's exactly the type of guy you want to be bringing on to try and open it up and create a chance for the strikers. There's none of the guys that are in that squad at the moment that have got the same kind of natural talent and creativity as Christie's got, but he's probably miles away. We obviously don't know how close he came to getting a call up, but it just seems, as I say, Strachan's certain picking the same group of players, time in, time out, regardless of form, and especially if you're wearing the red Aberdeen, then you seem to have absolutely no chance whatsoever. Only surprise is that Ryan Jack's not made it in there.
Give it time, Martin. Give it time.
It's coming.
Yeah. Well, much like the rest of us, Brian Christie is going to be watching that game from his sofa. Part of the game this Saturday. We'll have updates on the Twitter feed for you guys. we're going to debut a new feature now where we're going to just we're going to pick a topic at random at the past, out of the news. Today's one, or this episode's one, is been 20 years ago as we record it today, 21st of August 1997. The famous Be Here Now album by Oasis was released. A little bit of background on that one for those of you that aren't familiar. It sold over 424,000 copies on its first day of release. Those are in, of course, the dark old days when people used to go to record shops and buy things. It is also, to give you the flip side as well, it is also rumoured to be the most donated album ever to second-hand and charity shops. So, I'm going to hand it over to you, Richard. I'm going to see, what's your memories of that one coming out?
Yeah, it was a weird period, wasn't it? People just wanted to be part of something, I think, and Oasis gave them that opportunity. Obviously, prior to then, definitely maybe it sold very well, and it was the album for a lot of people in the same way that the Stone Roses had been 8 years previously. Then, What's the Story, Morning Glory really breaks them to a huge mainstream audience, coupled with the fact that the whole Britpop thing went overground, went tabloid. They were at the forefront of that. Then we get Be Here Now, which is fueled from a creative sense by masses and masses of cocaine, but it's got such huge weight of expectation and pressure behind it that it comes out to such huge critical acclaim as well as the huge sales. Listening back now, what were we all thinking? It's atrocious. There are some of the worst songs that have ever been. Magic Pie is on that record. There's one or two gems, hints of a good songs on there, like All Around the World, for example. It's another pretty limited Beatles pastiche, but then again, so are many of their best singles. But it's stretched out for 8 long minutes. Kids, don't do cocaine. This is what it does to you.
Yeah, don't go away. That song on that album, I really like that song. And do you know what I mean? The intro track, I quite like them on that album. I didn't think it was that bad, but yeah, Magic Pie's a pile of shit. Apart from that, it was alright.
I remember when it first came out, and there was the whole build up to it, and there was folk queuing overnight, or a couple of days or whatever to get it from the record shop and that. And I think, what was I at the time? I must have been like 14 or something. Finally getting it, hearing the first song, do you know what I mean? Thinking, oh yes, this is unbelievable. And then it just went off the edge of a cliff after that. It was just utter shit, really. It was just, crushed me as a 14-year-old to hear the rest of it. But perversely, I'm probably the opposite of you, Richard. I hear it now and I kind of appreciate the fact that it's just so ridiculous and overblown, and just, as you say, they've thrown as much at it as they can, as much drugs as they could, And it's just ridiculous. You've got to admire their balls in a way that they had two of the biggest selling albums all time, and then they had the balls to put out that album afterwards. It's impressive. There's a couple of good tunes on it. It's a couple of tunes I still listen to these days, but as an album, it's crazy. I don't think you'll see the likes again. You couldn't imagine One Direction or those types of guys pumping out an album like that. It just would never happen nowadays.
No, I don't think you'll ever see the hype for an album coming out like that as well. That came out. I mean, it was everywhere. HMV were giving out I Was There on the first day kind of tickets for people that had bought it on the day of release. I mean, I love it. I think it is my favourite Oasis album, For My Sins. But that is because it's partly because it is unashamedly self-indulgent. And I mean, Noel Gallagher's came out and said himself that he put layers and layers and layers of guitars on the tracks. When he did the remaster for the reissue last year, he did a stripped back version of Do You Know What I Mean? And you can see that on some of the tracks, the high standard of songwriting is kind of still there. It's just that he couldn't be bothered doing the rest of the album, which was a shame.
But it also coincides, Martin, the quality of the B-sides, which had long been something that Oasis and a lot of other bands around that time, in fairness, were known for. They fell off a cliff as well. It's like they just gave up, or they just committed to being rock and roll stars and gave up actually bothering to write songs.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the B-sides from that album was Stay Young, which, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, it's the best song they've done. And it wasn't on any of their albums. There's other songs that were on there. Stand By Me, I think, is a good song. The title track, and I like it partly for this reason, but I think the song Be Here Now sounds like Status Quo played at the wrong speed.
Which is never a good thing.
Now, come on now.
What's the right speed for Status Quo?
For those of you out there listening that don't know what the wrong speed means, there used to be these things called records. That you could play at 33 or 45.
You're back in fashion now, Martin. You're fine. It's CDs that people won't have a fucking clue about.
A lot of the kids out there might not know what those black round things are. They were called records, and you could play them at the wrong speed. And I guarantee if you have Be Here Now on vinyl and you play it at the slower speed or speed it up, it just sounds exactly like a Status Quo song. Part of the reason as well is no less than the god of fuck himself, Marilyn Manson, lists it as his favourite album purely because of the reason that they'd clearly taken so much cocaine that he said he couldn't imagine the place that they were in to create something like that.
The topic of drugs and music, especially around that time, is an interesting point because you have, at the same sort of time, you have Pulp go and do This Is Hardcore, which is Jarvis's Drugs album. And it's bleak and it's black, but it's far more creatively inspiring than Be Here Now by Oasis. You also have Blur, who come up with Beetle Bum, which is about addiction. And Blur, again, at that point in time, taking it to a completely different path, despite being under similar sort of pressures to Oasis and internally combusting in the same way that Oasis have done. So, there are different approaches, and I guess different drugs will give you different types of albums as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Pulp there, and I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say that Pulp were better than Oasis ever were anyway. But
that's one for maybe another.
See, that's why I said I would stick. That's why I said I would stick my neck on the line.
Probably, I think the greatest Oasis song ever written is probably "Slide Away." I love that song, "Slide Away" by Oasis. Just beautiful. What a song!
It's up there.
Yeah, it's definitely that's definitely up there with one of them. Yeah,
better than Pulp.
I don't think they've written anything as good as anything that's on Different Class. Put it that way.
When you were asked, were you Blur or Oasis, the obvious answer was Pulp.
Pulp.
Oasis.
Got to be Oasis, for me.
Got to be.
Nobody ever really picked Blur. We know that much anyway. It was always Blur were for girls.
The only good thing I think that really if Mogwai have done, I'm not a huge fan, as you might have gathered, is that around about that time they brought out t-shirts that just said Blur are shite.
It's one of those things. I didn't know who Mogwai were, but then I looked into them to see, and I would say that probably Mogwai are kind of shite as well, but no, their t-shirts are magic. So yeah. So that was our exclusive content there for our YouTube listeners. That brings us to the end of our show this evening. I want to thank you all for joining and listening. I want a special thanks to Richard Hay. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Very special thanks to Martin Stone. You can catch Martin at theunmodernman.net.
Thanks again, lads. Really enjoyed it. Cheers.
Yeah, and a special thanks to Scott Baxter as well, and you can find him at scottcarmenbaxter.com. You can see some of the great pictures he's taken at Pittodrie and some of the Dons as well. Thanks very much for coming on, Scott.
Thank you very much for having me back on. I appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure. That brings our show to the end this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for listening to us, and we'll be back with you with another show next week. Good night.